Hey, whoa. I always wondered, where are you from?
I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm half black and half Mexican. On my dad's side, we're like Louisiana Creole from Natchitoches, Louisiana. And then my mom's side, she's from LA. Her mom is from Jimenez, Mexico. Where are you from?
I grew up in Arizona. And welcome to Cafecito. Whoa and I had a conversation. We had conflicting views on whether or not we wanted everyone to self identify on race. I personally feel really strongly about the idea that it's diminishing of my strong association to my nationality of being American. It is often used to undercut the fact that I don't look American enough for people. And so I don't like to bring it up unless I think it's relevant.
I like to get out ahead of other people and tell them what my mix is so that they don't make annoying assumptions. We're here talking with other amazing mixed and multiracial artists and people about what it means to be multiracial. We actually had so much trouble defining what was a multiracial or biracial or mixed race person. I brought up oh, it means you're from an interracial family, and then some people were like, no, that's not what it means.
That's not an answer that we can make for other people, and everyone self identifies.
The US was founded on a black white binary. So basically, you were either white or black. Laws against miscegenation, which was the mixing of the races, and interracial marriage was also illegal. In Latin America, the Spanish and the French colonizers worked it out, was that they allowed races to mix more. And that created mestizaje, the mixing of races that a lot of Latin American countries pride themselves on. But it's also all been within a white power dynamic where making, your country better by being more white.
Multiracial Americans are at the cutting edge of social and demographic change in the US, growing at a rate of 3 times as fast as the population as a whole. Hispanic origin is asked about separately as an ethnicity and is not considered a race. When Latinos are asked whether they consider being Hispanic to be part of their racial or ethnic background, 2/3 of Hispanics say it is, at least in part, their race.
To check into the doctor, you have to say what is your and under race, I'm like, well, I guess I have to define myself as something. And most of the times, yeah, there's no mix. Growing up in Panama, I never identified as anything. Panama is such a melting pot of cultures and races and everything that I was just a person. One of the few times in real life that this was brought to my attention, that I was mixed. We went to the beach, spent 4 days under the sun, and at the end, I was like, oh my God, I look so black. One of my friends was like, Ilda, you are black. Your dad is black, remember? And I was like, oh my God, that is so true. My dad is black and my mom is white. I always just identified here as Latina. We didn't see that race thing, that racism that you see here. That is what are you? Are you black? Are you white?
A lot of people would ask which one of my parents was white and which one was black. And for a while, I didn't know how to answer because for me, the answer was neither. I am black and I am white, but it's been mixing for so long that now I feel the need to identify with both.
In DR, I don't ever think of myself as black or white, but here I'm in this nebulous space. When I'm checking off the boxes, technically I could check off white and I could check off Black, Afro-Caribbean, right? And I could check off Indigenous. But in a real life experience, I don't necessarily have those experiences, right? I don't have a Black experience in spaces, right? And yet parts of my culture are Afro, right? Like the way we dance, the words that we use.
My experience comes from that of being triracial, of being white, Black, and Indigenous. And and we are afforded the luxury of being able to take these little swabby tests and send them out and boast about what are our numbers. Somebody came up to me and said, oh, Jivi, you're Black, almost like it was an insult. Like they expected me to go, oh, no, I'm not. I just have a tan. No. And I said, yeah, I am Black. So are you, by the way. It's about reclaiming and claiming where you are now and claiming where you came from before.
I also just like have another very distinct moment of my childhood where I got to see both sides of my family in one summer. So the Puerto Ricans were in Arizona, we were all hanging out, and my auntie came over and gave me, she's like, do you want this sauce? It's like a mayo sauce, or do you want this sauce, the vinegar sauce? And I tasted both of them and I was like, I want the vinegar one. And I'll never forget that she said to me, true blue Puerto Rican. And then like 2 weeks later, we drove to LA. We picked up food in Chinatown. We brought it to my grandma's house. We're sitting there getting ready to eat rice, and I go to eat rice with a fork, and my uncle nearly lost his damn mind. Filipinos eat rice with their hands. And he was like, your mother never taught you this? I was just like, I don't know what's happening right now. I'm American.
So like on my Mexican side, like everyone says like, oh, you look more black, or like you look more like your dad's side. On my dad's side, everyone's like, oh, you look more like your mom. And so they just like see the other one in me, and I'm like, it's both.
Because that when you're asked the question, but where are you from? It's out of like a racist mindset. But this is because you have some idea that people who are from here don't look like this. If you want to go like based off of what people from here look like, they would be Native Americans. So what is it? Which one is it?
When you say you're American and they're like, no, where you're really from, it's because there's this weird conflation that like American means white.
There's a preconceived notion that like, all Puerto Ricans or all Latinos are raised in the culture. You can be raised in loving American culture, knowing that I Love Lucy is still Latin culture. A mixed race couple raising a mixed race kid, but everything is based on the lens of Americanism. Even the census is an American entity. That I'm a mixed race person. There's no box that can contain me.
Last year, there was a huge, rally around Black Lives Matter. As, multiracial people, how did you navigate that dynamic?
I took the streets, and it kind of was one of the reasons why I decided to paint the mural that I painted, Yo Amo Mi Mezcla. It started a ripple effect, and all I wanted to do was be outside painting murals with beautiful messages that did connect and make the people think.
Creating a multiracial, multicultural curricula of books for students of color, by people of color, telling stories that are about people that look like them is at the cornerstone of my work.
Things being called the China virus, watching the Asian community, like for the first time in a long time, face such aggressive and violent racism, and then having them almost turn that without seeing how obviously connected and worse it is in the Black community has been a hill.
I was auditioning. The role is a Latina, but I didn't care about that. I'm just reading the words and they're like, but aren't you Latina? And I said, yeah. They were like, so why are you reading it like that? And I said, so what? You want me to talk like this? Is this what you're looking for? We should be able to exist outside of our race as well. And that's what I think that we're just working towards, like just being our authentic selves and not having to be performative.
Not all adults with a mixed racial background consider themselves multiracial. In fact, 61% do not. Racial identity can be fluid, is what they've decided, and may change over the course of one's life.
Maybe they experience it just very unilaterally, but they have done their like ancestry research and they do know their percentages, but they experience it as Black, white.
We experience race in one way, and then we're perceived, our race is perceived in a different way. If I'm in a room of just white people, I don't feel white, even though that is racially what's in my mix. They're not perceiving me as white. Our movement in the world is different, right? They are viewed and accepted a certain way versus the way I'm viewed and accepted, right?
These censuses are made to erase people and promote homogeny. Is it to everybody to fight for their count, to not be erased?
Perception, it really isn't reality. Don't let anyone color you. You choose your color. And that no one can take our experiences away from us, and that we can take those experiences and make art with it.
People just want their boxes so they don't have to like take the time to get to know you. And so like it takes courage for us to like step out into the world as like our full selves and be like, I am this.
I'm super grateful for all of you beautiful, generous people for sharing your time and your stories with us.
So,
Vamos mi mezcla.